It was supposed to be an ordinary night in Ile-Ife. The air was calm, the sky quiet, and students of Obafemi Awolowo University slept peacefully in their halls. Awolowo, Angola, Mozambique, the great dorms of OAU stood tall under the moonlight, unaware that death was already on its way. Obafemi Awolowo University, the great Ife, was more than just a school. It was a city of brilliance, of intellect, of voices unafraid to challenge power. It was a place where freedom was not just a word, but a way of life. But even paradise can hide shadows, and that night, those shadows came alive. In the 1990s, OAU was a world of its own. Its architecture was magnificent, its students proud, its debates fierce. The Students' Union was the loudest and bravest in the country, a symbol of defiance in a time when silence was safer. But underneath the laughter, beneath the rhythm of campus life, something dark was brewing. Cult groups, once small and secret, had become powerful and deadly. They were no longer brotherhoods. They were armed factions fighting for control, for money, for fear. And anyone who stood against them became a target. Among those who refused to bow was a young man named Lanre Adeleke, known across the campus as Legacy. He was the Students' Union president, bold and fearless, a leader who dared to confront cultism head-on. He spoke loudly, carried himself with pride, and believed that the university belonged to the students, not to fear. By his side was another student leader, George Yemi Iwilade, the law student everyone called Afrika. Afrika was intelligent, charismatic, a voice of reason and resistance in a time of chaos. Together, Legacy and Afrika became symbols of hope, of bravery, and of truth in a time of chaos. But courage always has a price. Months before the tragedy, a violent confrontation shook the campus. In March 1999, suspected cultists were caught and handed over to the authorities after a failed attack. The Students' Union had exposed them publicly, and the humiliation cut deep. From that moment, revenge was promised. Whispers moved in the dark, warning that the Union had gone too far. That night was coming. The hunters were watching. The months that followed were uneasy. Students returned to lectures, parties, laughter, pretending life was normal. But fear lurked behind every smile. There were sightings of strange men near the halls, rumors of plots, warnings that something was about to happen. Yet no one could tell when or how, until the night came. It was July 10th, 1999, a Saturday. The campus was alive earlier that evening.
There had been a party between Mozambique and Angola halls. Music, dancing, laughter, youth. By 3 a.m., silence had returned. The only sounds were the hum of the night and the soft wind brushing the walls. And then they came. They came like ghosts, 20, maybe 40 men, dressed in black, faces hidden, guns and machetes in hand. They moved fast, without mercy, storming into the halls where students slept. Awolowo Hall was their main target. They broke through doors, shouting names, Legacy! Afrika! Their voices echoed through the corridors like death calling out its victims. Bullets tore through walls. Screams filled the air. Students ran in confusion, jumping from balconies, crawling under beds, praying in whispers. Afrika was found first. They dragged him out, beat him, and shot him in cold blood. He was just 21 years old. Legacy, the president they sought, escaped by a miracle. jumping from a balcony and disappearing into the night, wounded, breathless, and alive only by fate. When the noise faded, 5 students lay dead. George, Afrika, Iwilade, Efe Ekede, Yemi Ajiteru, Babatunde Oke, Eviano Ekelemu. 5 bright lives gone in one night of madness. By dawn, the university awoke to horror. Blood on the walls, silence in the halls, grief in every corner. Students cried and shouted in disbelief. They marched through the campus in their thousands, carrying placards, chanting for justice. The country was shocked. How could such evil happen inside a place of learning? How could the killers come and go freely in the heart of the great Ife? The government promised an investigation. Names were mentioned, suspects arrested. There was hope at first, but as weeks turned to months, the noise faded. Files went missing. Witnesses disappeared. Trials collapsed. And like too many tragedies in Nigeria, justice never came. No one was truly punished for the blood that was shed. No one paid the price for the 5 lives stolen. And as years passed, the system forgot, but the students did not. Every year since then, on the 10th of July, candles are lit at OAU. The names are spoken again. Afrika, Efe, Yemi, Tunde, Eviano. They are remembered not as victims, but as heroes. Their faces live on in the morals, their courage in every student who dares to speak truth to power. Lanre, Adeleke still carries the memories of friends lost, of blood spilled, of promises broken. But he also carries pride, because even though they came that night with guns and hatred, they could not kill what OAU stood for. They could not silence the truth. They came to destroy, but their violence only created legends. They came to kill, but they gave birth to immortality. Because the night they came became a warning, a story, a fire that still burns in the heart of great Ife. And though time has passed, the echoes of that night remain in the whispers of the wind through Awolowo Hall, in the silence that falls when July 10th arrives again, and in the voice of every student who refuses to be afraid. They came, they killed, but they did not win. Because legends like Afrika never die. They live forever in truth, in courage, in memory. The night they came will never be forgotten, and the story will always be told, so that the world remembers what happened and why it must never happen again. May their souls rest in power, and may their legacy live on.